Yes, hello, we're here again. I'm Consuelo Lara,
I'm Madeline Kronenberg.
and this is Between Two Teachers. Well, a lot of news today.
A lot going on in West Contra Costa.
Let's start with the good news. So you want to tell us about?
Well, let's start off with earlier this week, Tuesday night. Tuesday night, the El Cerrito Lions Club held its annual speakers contest. And this year, the topic is freedom of the press and what it means to me. And we had two very exceptional young women as speakers, both of them from El Cerrito High School. And the club winner at this level was a young lady named Jordan White. So this is my shout out to Jordan and all the good work that she put into delivering her speech, and also to Miss Toriel, who is the other competitor. It's going to go on to the next level at Mechanics Bank, I think on March 5th, and then it goes on to regional and statewide competitions, where there's a great deal of scholarship money available to the ultimate winner. And we're looking forward to seeing Jordan go far in the contest. And you got to participate in the contest.
I got to be one of the judges for the contest, and that was a lot of fun. I have to say, when they said it was so close, it was very true, because they were both excellent. So it was very, very close. But it's just so wonderful to see young people get up there, be so articulate and so relevant to what's going on right now. Their analysis, I mean, just the instincts they have about what is going on in the world. I just love to hear their opinions, and they did a really good job.
Yeah, so it's a shout out to each of them individually, and to all the teachers who spent all these years preparing them.
Sure.
These are very well prepared young women who are going to do incredibly well wherever they go to college. And I really look forward to them being competitive as they move on. The next one will be with other children, other students from across West County. Then they'll be doing the entire county. Then they'll be doing the region, and ultimately the state.
Yeah, and I was really impressed that Jordan said, well, I did it yesterday, and I was finishing in the car or something.
She had very little time. She really had very remarkably less time than others have had to write it. But it was from her heart. It was really well organized. And
how did she hear about it? From Rima?
Oh, she heard about it from. So it was difficult to get the word out, and so I'm learning that I'm going to have to spread the word about this contest more broadly. And finally, my friend from El Cerrito High, who's been there forever, who is the inspiration for our son being a teacher, a gentleman named Corey Mason, who runs the radio station. He was one of the people who put it out to everybody, and as did our UTR reps. It was put out to them, and ultimately Jordan's teacher wound up sending out a message on Remind to let everybody know, which is an app that teachers use to communicate with their students, to let them know about the contest, and that's how Jordan learned about it.
Awesome.
Right at the last minute.
Yeah, that was great. And one thing, I shout out to the city of San Pablo for the work they're doing on the obesity issue in the schools. They're have contributed a lot to what's happening there. Education for parents. There's their coffee club. They had nutrition classes. That's for all the parents, and it's well attended, I have to say. And then also they're having cooking classes, and so have cooking with tofu and kale. So it's very much a change for some of them, but the food was delicious because I stayed till the end. I have to sample it. It's great. So I'm going there every Tuesday, I believe.
This is where you're going to lunch every Tuesday.
It's awesome. Yeah, and my friend Genoveva Calloway, her and I go there and hang out. So a lot of wonderful stuff happening in our schools.
The other big shout out this week goes to our 4 Ed Fund Teacher of the Year winners. So I want to give the shout out to, we have actually one elementary school teacher from Nystrom, Miss Fernanda Gonzalez Hauska, and then 3 secondary teachers, Dan O'Shea from Pinole Valley High School, Doug Silva from Helms, and Madison Schmaltz from Richmond High. So I wish them all great success. I mean, ultimately there's they're on the path to be in the countywide competition, and it goes up to state and national as well.
Yeah, yeah. I got to go to the celebrations, and I mean, it was just like one after another. We went from school to school, and our communications person, Mr. Walton, he calls the families. They get, if there's a band, they have the band playing, and the students can come out, and it's like a big surprise party because the teachers don't have a clue, and they just surprise them and make a big deal about it. And then, you know, the superintendent's there, and the board, and people, and the UTR, and they make speeches, and it's just a great fun kind of thing.
And this year was Valentine's Day.
And it was on Valentine's Day, that's true. So it was fun. That was really fun to do and participate in.
So then back to the board.
So we have a big thing coming up on February the 27th. So that's the next board meeting, and we want to talk about something that's going to be on the agenda, and it was something that was brought up last week for discussion, and that is a resolution. It's a call for a moratorium on charter school expansion and strengthening of transparency and oversight in governance and practice is the title of it. So we want to say a few words about that, exactly what it is, what is that, where it comes from. I just want to start, people have asked, why did you do this? Where did it come from? And I just remember, I guess it was over Christmas vacation that I kept thinking about Los Angeles and Oakland, and it just kept coming up. We're next, we're next, we're next. So talking it over with my colleague here, and what could we do? And it seemed like a moratorium was the way to go. And there was a lot of them out there that we looked at. And ours is a combination of things, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's had support from a lot of different organizations who have, in fact, written their own versions of them. And what this one, the one that was on the last agenda, and it's in that iteration, was a composite of what was adopted by the Los Angeles School District following the strike, and it was really built into the resolution of the strike that they were going to support this moratorium, because the issue is if charter schools continue to be able to grow within districts that they've already had a big impact in, the overhead costs associated with running a district will be so stressed that the district won't be able to offer the kinds of education that they want to be able to offer, and they won't be able to meet the promises they've made to their staff. If you continue to lose funding, the funding is based on an assumption of a particular size of your district, and if it changes very dramatically, you're not going to be able to keep the promises you've made to your own team, and that's the beginning of the end for any district. So that's certainly was true in LA, which is the reason they put this into the LA, the resolution of the strike. It's even truer in Los Angeles, in Oakland, where Oakland has the highest percentage of charter schools, and the problems in Oakland are directly connected to that loss of income and revenue that they would have if it hadn't been capped at a certain point when they really started to lose money. And it can happen here. And personally, my greatest concern is that we don't relive the days when we give a raise, which my children, when my children were in school in the 90s, the teachers received a 9% raise that had to be given back. Now, the circumstances had nothing to do with charter schools, but had to do with the financing of the district. And this moratorium is a moratorium this resolution is about keeping the financial health of this district strong. So it goes through essentially asking for state legislation, because this situation is solved by state legislation that would establish a moratorium on new charter schools in the state while it's worked out how to protect the districts that are the most at risk. Then it's also asking that we go ahead and do an analysis of the impact of each new charter school on the traditional schools in the district, including an economic impact. That's not included right now as one of the parts of a review of a school when it comes in. And there are many details in terms of what kinds of, how that impact is going to be created that are included in the report. And then the district would make sure parents are informed about their rights. The district would do an impact on co-location, and the impact on co-location would be also an impact on the students in the traditional school that are having to make room for the charter school. It's extremely stressful to everyone to have a co-location. Across the country, this is a conversation that people have had, because when charter schools came in, essentially you had a parallel system operating, and there was no money or ability to just create new buildings, so that there's been co-locations in many, many places throughout the country, and they've been problematic at best. You want to continue?
Absolutely. So I just want to say a few things about what this resolution is not going to do. It's not going to close any of our charter schools.
Yeah.
It's not going to.
And it doesn't ask to.
It doesn't ask to anywhere. We're not going to close any schools. We want the state to look at the laws and change the laws in terms of the charter school laws that are not fair, really, to our public school districts, and to really look at the analysis and make analysis of the impact that it's had thus far, and then the potential impact, because we know what's going to happen. It's not a mystery. We know exactly what's going to happen, and we need to have that clearly outlined so people can see it and understand that that's the way we're headed. What else about this? And this is a really important part, the strengthening of transparency and oversight. We really want this, and we can require the charter schools to do the same things that we do in terms of the Brown Act. We have to post our agendas in minutes. We have to have open meetings at our board meetings. Anybody can come and anybody can speak. Well, where are their meetings, and how do I go there, and how do I speak, and can I get on the board if I felt like it, and how open are they? So the opening of the books and the budget, I mean, we have a right to look into that, and that this will give us more access to that, I think, as well.
It's public money. That's the bottom line. There's public money here, and this is a matter of just making sure that the public has access to understanding what's happening to their money.
Yeah, so the resolution will help us, hopefully there'll be a slowdown, a cap, a pause, whatever you want to call it, in terms of new charters, and also the oversight of how the money is being used, actually. And so we know that there are, I have to say, more and more, I really separate between the charter school industry corporations and the charter schools themselves. We don't have a problem with the charter schools. They're not the problem, They're kind of being used for the money-making schemes of the corporations. That's kind of how I feel. They're not necessarily victims. The people left, those students left, they're pretty much the victims. But so I separate those two things. I don't want to demonize charters, schools themselves. Some are doing a great job. People are happy there. They give out this data that's really not accurate because they've picked the students but other than that, I mean, there's lots of ways that those schools can become like affiliated charters. There's a lot of potential there, a lot of possibilities. Nobody wants to close schools. Closing a school is the most painful, traumatic thing you can do to a community of families, and nobody wants to do that. But we need to be fair to everybody, not just this select group, and be forced to give up our facilities and our resources. That's really not fair. And unfortunately, it's also not fair that our parents are told a lot of lies and gotten all worked up. And, I'm sure on the 27th that there'll be possibly busloads of parents who have been told they're going to close your schools, and so bring your signs and pots and pans or whatever and come and, protest. But there's certain things out there that are being spread to those parents that are simply not true, we don't think. So the idea that all charter schools are required to take all students, that's not really true. There's lots of ways that those students can be unselected. And what we've noticed, and we've got data to show it, there's a tendency, a trend for whether it's English learners or special needs students, they're kind of at the high end, higher functioning. So then their test scores won't be very low. But the students with higher needs are left in our public schools, and so of course the test scores. So to compare the test scores of those two schools is just, it's not fair because it's not accurate. So I thought this was kind of interesting. This is one thing that's being spread out there, that the education dollars spent belong to the student and not to the district, which is sort of true, but that money is also spent for overhead, and it's spent for other additional resources. It's spent for students that have a higher, it's put to use for all students. And if you take that away, you still have those needs, but then you have less resources. And I think this is kind of interesting because the charter schools, the money belongs to the student, and yet their principal CEOs get these very large salaries, much larger than we pay our superintendent even. So so there's some contradictions in those things that
there are. I mean, and I think that just in terms of the money following the student, one of the things is that there are overhead costs to running the district that remain even after these students leave, and those costs were entered into without any expectation that there would ever be an entire new public school operator sector. There was no such thing when these costs were started, so that they're not inappropriate, they're not unfair, they're costs that have to do with labor, they're costs that have to do with supporting retirees who gave their lives working in the district, and those costs are spread out among all of the children of the district. As the district shrinks, those costs become a higher percentage of the amount of money that's available for each child, and it becomes prohibitive and impossible to deliver the level of education that our children deserve and that we want to give to them. And that's why this has been developed. This particular moratorium, this particular resolution, comes from both the LAUSD resolution that was passed there, and also one that was passed by San Francisco. And it's been looked at by attorneys. There are no legal issues with it. It really does make the case for making having a financial conscience, having a conscience around the financial decisions that we're asked to make. No other public agency in California is legally required to make financial decisions that will hurt that agency. It's only because we are forced to have to apply a set of rules that say you have to vote to put yourself into bankruptcy because we won't allow you not to. It is only with charter schools and school districts that this happens, and that is what this is about. This is trying to address that so that the districts, East Side, Oakland, LA, San Francisco, all these, the districts that have had the most history of being targeted by the charter school industry are able to recover from it and be able and hold themselves in a way that they're able to pay a living wage to keep their students, to not have this incredible turnover because you're the lowest paid district in the county or sometimes even in the state. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. This is making the case to support the children of our district, and that's why it's a fight that's worth having.
Absolutely. So we have one more between two teachers and before
Next week, right?
Yeah, next week before the vote. So we'll be catching you up on what else is happening. Things happen very quickly, but yeah, this is not as threatening as people want to make it seem like. It's applying the brakes to what's going on and making a more clear evaluation. Is this the way we really want to go? Is this the way we really want to go? And to examine that with our eyes open and with all the information that we possibly can get. And I think that's...
The one thing we never talk about in this, and I do just want to add it one time, and that is that as the district financial picture becomes less stable, which it will as more charter schools come in, the people at Moody's and Fitch and the other rating agencies who decide how much interest they're going to charge us on bonds will look at us as being a bad risk.
High risk.
Okay? So this is another reason. How can you be forced to vote to put yourself in a high-risk category when that's why no other public agency is forced to do that. And that's what this is about. This is about saying that you're going to do this to your district and your taxpayers.
Yeah, so the ripple effect.
It has a huge ripple effect.
All areas that...
Right, all the way through every part of the district. It has a huge ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
And so that you wind up with this group of students who could be left. If everybody left and went out into the charters, there would be nobody left. There would be absolutely nothing left, and you'd have to figure out what very minimal amount of education you'd be able to offer. And we don't want to be in that position.
We don't want to go that way. Absolutely. Okay, so
that's that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for listening, and subscribe and
press the button, and the bell will go off when we post one every Friday.
And send this link to your friends. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.